Now, the question that's tormenting us, why is George Clooney being blamed for trimming the profits of a men's grooming brand? We're going to find out in just a moment as we take a look through the business pages of all the Sunday papers with the broadcaster and businesswoman Margaret Mountford and the PR guru and co-founder of Seven Hills. He's Michael Hayman MBE, and congratulations on that, Michael.
Thank you, Dermot.
Very good to see you. We're having such a good time in the green room now. I'm going to call you Mick and Man. A double act there. Margaret, well, come on, enlighten us. So what's George Clooney done?
Well, apparently he grew a beard, and so a lot of other people thought they would too, including Paxman. Whether he was trying to emulate Clooney, we don't know. But this has affected sales of razors worldwide, and there's actually a large article further inside the Telegraph, not just this little front page bit, with Will King, who's the king of shaves, and who's developed this new razor, which apparently is supposed to glide effortlessly across the stubble, presumably taking the stubble with it, based on catheter technology. Actually, it's supposed to be. Well, we won't go into that.
Didn't know that.
No, we don't want to go into that. But we wondered whether you were going to set a trend.
Yes,
I've had the dabble.
Paxman
I've done the dabble with the holiday beard, but I don't really think it kind of was too grey. Well, mind you, Paxman got away with it. But I mean, has it had a serious effect? I mean, are we seeing? Or is it just one of those rather silly stories, or has that had a real serious effect on the bottom line?
I think it probably has had a bit of effect, or maybe there's just a trend, and that's part of it, and you can't say that's the cause, but there may be the effect.
Indeed. Okay.
It's the war of the shaves. I mean, he's a big. I mean, I know Will King very well. I mean, he's a man for campaigning, and you know, he's got sort of Gillette in his gaze, but actually there is this other big social trend, which is we're becoming a hairier nation, I guess. I mean, people aren't shaving as much as they used to.
A lot of younger men they're doing the full King
Another way of keeping warm, presumably.
But Paxman shaved it off and said it was all so 2013, so maybe it's over now. So
well, that's it. A new year, new opportunities.
Absolutely.
Close to shave.
Okay. Now, your first story, Michael, is retailers in fight back after supermarkets hit, and some of them had a pretty bad Christmas period, didn't they?
Well, I know. I mean, I was just thinking about this. I mean, it feels like this story is more changeable than the weather at the moment. I mean, one minute it's sort of dark clouds and then it's a bit of blue skies. I mean, and I think that's partly because we are in this very, very interesting period where we're at the beginnings of an economic recovery. And, of course, not all the stories are great. But whereas last week was very much about the sort of the food supermarkets and showing some really sort of fairly sort of poor results, this week is all about the retailers and what they're doing. And what you're seeing is that there's a battle on the high street, but I think the most important trend has got to be the online revolution, where the UK is the #1 online trading nation in the world for consumer purchases.
And those that don't get that are going to get left behind. I mean, there was particularly that growth, wasn't there, of click and collect, whereas, you know, if you're not in, you still get it. You don't have to go down the sorting office or ring up UPS or DHL, whoever it is, and say, come on another day.
Yeah.
Huge growth in that, and it makes you wonder what's going to happen to all these enormous out-of-town hypermarkets, because if people are going to just want a warehouse to go and pick up something they've ordered online, and maybe the high street will start to come back as we get smaller retailers with fresh produce that people still want to go and buy themselves, and all the big stuff will get ordered online.
Never not interesting, all these retailing trends. Margaret, you've got this story about the Americans, another British brand taking a big bite of Hovis.
Another really old British brand. I mean, 125 years of bread making.
I wondered if it was that old. I know the advertising tries to make out.
Well, so too, it must be true.
It was invented by some kind of key marketing man like him about 30 years ago.
Well, it certainly was in the 70s, and that's practically 125 years ago, isn't it? Ancient history. But it's a bit of a shame if you think that another old-style, long-standing British brand is going to America. And this wonderful photograph of Alec Gore sitting in between some actresses and models, none of whom ever look as if they've eaten a slice of bread in their lives.
That's right, they absolutely don't. And he's quite a character, this guy. But I think it comes into another interesting fact, which is that, you know, how brands sort of go up and down, and what you see is that other sort of bread brands like Kingsmill have been getting it nailed on gluten-free and all sorts of other sorts of things, and Hovis is right for a makeover. And by the looks of this guy, he's a bit of a character, professional poker player, lots of sort of things that he's sort of bringing I guess, to the table, and Hovis will be shaken up. Long way to go from those ads where they were
yes,
up the hills and down the dale.
Cobbled streets on a very heavy steel bike. Michael, you got this story, I mean, it's much discussed, of course, about wages, and, of course, wages have been lagging inflation for a long time. Even a Treasury Conservative thinks the minimum wage could go up.
Yeah, I think in many ways this is the story of the weekend, which is the Low Pay Commission are about to go into 3 days of purdah where they're going to consider whether the sort of living wage needs to rise and whether companies...
This is minimum wage, because
they're
minimum wage is statutory.
That's right, they're conflated into two things. But the minimum wage, you're right, the minimum wage, which currently stands at about £6.31, I think it is whether it goes up. And what you have is probably some level of consensus in business that it's ripe for change, but certainly not a consensus that it could go up to some of the sort of levels that some of the politicians are talking about. I think that what you've got is a very, very mixed picture in the UK economy at the moment, where London could probably take it, but there are large parts of the UK economy, and certainly many people in small businesses, that would be very, very concerned at this stage to changes in the minimum wage.
Because it is a huge political debate, with Labour shifting their attack as the economy picked up, Margaret, to this cost of living. Who is feeling the benefits of recovery? Well, an increase in the minimum wage would make a difference to that political argument.
It would. It would also make a difference, they say, or some say, to the benefits bill, because according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, for every pound the minimum wage goes up, 50p is saved on benefits, because, of course, the minimum wage is not a living wage, and an awful lot of people earning the minimum wage are also getting tax credits or other forms of income support from the Treasury. So in a way, having a low minimum wage is subsidising particular employers, but the government isn't having a choice in which employers it's subsidising in that way.
Yeah, but it's interesting is that in a way it's also a fairly healthy debate, because I think it shows that business is going beyond just the survival point, and actually some of these social social cost debates come on in terms of what is acceptable, and I think that there is some acknowledgement that this is probably a needle that needs to be pushed a little bit up.
OK, and on that note we'll end it. Thank you very much indeed, Michael, Margaret, Mick and Madge. Very good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for taking us through the business page of the Sunday papers there.